What's up, everybody? It's Dan from Binder Boneyard coming at you from the office. It is Saturday afternoon / evening because I'm not going to be here tomorrow on Sunday, which when I normally burn out these things. So I thought I would try to do one or two tonight and get caught up. It's been a long time. Thank you for your patience. Appreciate it. I've talked to a lot of people, and I really do appreciate everyone that listens, and thank you for holding tight. Everyone that I talk to at the shows and stuff, really appreciate all the feedback and whatnot. This podcast is going to be kind of a recap of the last month or so. Had a lot going on, and just haven't been able to post up. So I don't even know where I left off the last podcast, but anyway, the highlights from the last month or so: we went to Harvester Homecoming in Indiana at the Fort Wayne engineering plant. That's always a good time. It's a lot of history. Talked to a lot of neat people. See a lot of people that you don't see at the Ohio show for whatever reason. And, it's just, it's a different vibe. It's more of a museum and, less of a car show per se. I recommend that if you're anywhere near the Midwest, you try and get to both of the shows. But like I said, they both have different vibes. We don't sell nearly as well at Homecoming as we do at Nationals. It's like I said, it's just a different thing. People are coming to Homecoming to look at history and museum type things, and they're not there to buy parts for their internationals. And then, Nationals is the other way around. Like, guys are coming to look at a car show and then buy stuff for their own restorations or whatever. So it's, like I said, it's just a different vibe. But we go when we can. I had lined up to deliver some tubs and a cab on our way, so that pretty much paid for the trip out. And that was good. I hate making these drives and not having them pay off. So that was nice. And so we, do that when we can. The truck did great. Black truck runs great, like always. No surprises. I did end up changing the fan setup on it. The last trip through, so coming back from Nationals, it was hot. It was real hot. And I was pulling the enclosed trailer with the Travelette in it and coming through Nebraska and stuff. The black truck was getting warm. Never overheated, but just made me nervous. And I don't like to be nervous while I'm driving. I like to have my stuff set up so that I can just drive and not have to constantly watch gauges and watch my foot and watch the mirrors and, of course I check all that stuff, but I don't like to be paranoid. So when the temperatures started coming up on the way home, the last from Ohio, I knew I needed to change something. Well, one of the fans had quit spinning for whatever reason. One of the connections had burned out in the fans because I have 4 14-inch Polar fans on the radiator behind the cab, and one of them quit turning, and that was enough to create a problem. So I just I kind of wanted to go to the next level, and so I redid my shroud and I added 2 16-inch fans and then 2 14s, and so I'm still running 4 fans. I'm just running 2 larger ones. That seemed to help a lot. didn't get nearly as warm. I don't get nearly as warm now driving it around. They cycle a lot more, which is what they're supposed to do. I've got a temperature switch on the engine so that when it hits 190, then they come on and then they go off at 175. And so it's interesting to you watch them cycle like they're supposed to, whereas the 414s ran a lot more. They'd run 4, 5, 6 minutes before it'd get back down to the 175, whereas the 16s, they run for a minute, maybe two, depending on the terrain or what I'm doing. But so did change those out, did a few other little updates, of course some maintenance. I put 5,000 miles on it, over 5,000 miles on it from the Ohio trip, so had to get another oil change, which is like $90. And we threw the platform on the back seat for the dog, and just general prep. Put some tires on it. Last trip out, the tires were getting pretty thin, so threw a set of tires. Just general stuff. That's what I'm really stoked about with the black truck, or the Eagle, depending on what you want to call it. It's bomb proof. Like, it's done. Like, I'm so happy that I can just turn the key and 95% of the time just go, not worry about it, hook up to whatever I want to hook up to, go. This is a truck that we built from scratch. Like, we took mix and match and parts and pieces and all kinds of conglomeration of shit and made it all work together and work well. And it holds up and it's durable. I mean, I've got over 60,000 miles on it now. And, there's been some tweaks along the way. I've adjusted some of the cooling pipes, changed the hose routing, little things like that. But overall, just works. I'm so happy that we've figured it out. So I'm going to build another Travelette that is more traditional with the radiator in the front, and a few more standard things. We've got another 360. I'm on the hunt for another Allison right now. I'm going to run the next truck. It's going to be a Super Duty axles, and then I'll run the GM transfer case, the NP 271 or whatever it is, that just to simplify the whole process. Because I'm running a 205 on the Eagle truck, and that took some work to get a 205 married up to an Allison. So if I run the NP 272, then it just, the speed sensor's in there for when I go to low range and stuff like that. So the other thing, the new Travelette will be a long bed also. It's going to be more traditional. It'll be Super Duty axles, mild lift, long bed, all one color. It'll look fairly stock, but it'll have a 360 Allison, that whole setup. So that's what I'm hoping to start building next year. And it'll probably take me a year to build it, not counting body work. I'm just talking mechanicals and wiring. It was probably going to take a year because I'm doing it myself. That's another development. While we're out, Steve, my lead guy, my main man, decided to turn in his notice. So in September, mid-September, Steve will be moving back to Pennsylvania. So that is leaving a huge hole in my calendar, my heart, I don't know. But so I will be transitioning back to full-time tech, and that is going to really change the dynamic of the shop, because I won't be answering the phone anymore. I won't be responding to emails except for morning and evening. Social media is probably going to take a dip because I'm not going to be able to post during the day as much, or respond to questions and comments as much, which I've also discovered this last month or so is I'm really getting taken advantage of by the general public. Guys calling asking for tech support on products they didn't buy from us, guys demanding that I answer their questions. I had a guy call the other day asking about how to hook up his glove box, and I sent him a bunch of pictures, and then he called to tell me that, my pictures weren't good enough and he needed more detailed photos. So instead of telling him to pound sand up his ass, I went out and took more pictures, and didn't get a thank you, didn't get a thumbs up, nothing, just nothing. So like that really kind of solidified it for me that few bad folks have ruined it for the rest of the world. So yeah, the only information I'm giving out now is what you're going to get through this, or through my podcast, or I'm sorry, through my YouTube channel, or social media type stuff. But yeah, I'm really tapering back on the being a helpful guy, because being a helpful guy is I'm really starting to get taken advantage of, and it's too bad. So next time you see somebody trying to get something out of me, you can remember this. But yeah, so sorry everybody, but it's just going to be the huge from now on. I will be back in the shop doing shop stuff. So thank God I've got Ethan still, machinist and general tech. And then I have a part-time guy named Kalen. He's a hard worker, but he's a bull in the china shop. So he's good for tear down and, the working in the yard. I don't let him work on too many customer trucks, because he just is rough on stuff. But it's helpful to have a strong guy around to move things and get stuff done outside and whatnot. So that's where we are. I am actively hiring, trying very hard to get somebody in here, or multiple people in here. I did hire another part-time online seller to help Josie out, because the store is getting busier and busier. So that's good. I'm grateful for the online sales. So I hired a girl. She comes in the evening, works for a couple hours, and gets some listings done and that kind of thing, so that Josie can do shipping. And now Josie's having to answer the phone because I'm not. So yeah, it's just it's frustrating finding people. It's frustrating the lack of patience people have with me. And yeah, I know I've made this bed, but at the same time, I'm being covered in blankets that I didn't ask for. So anyway, that's the state of the union right now. But as far as the trip went, it was good. Met a lot of cool folks, saw a lot of stuff. After we went to homecoming, we headed north and went to Dearborn, Michigan, to the Henry Ford Museum. And I recommend, if you are anywhere near back there, you have to go. It is incredible. It's hard to wrap my head around it. I mean, the museum was built in 1929. So it is 100 years old. So it was already filled with old stuff, like when they built it. So now 100 years later, the stuff is even older and there's more stuff, and it's really cool. There's the indoor museum, which is massive. And then there's the Greenfield Village, which is the outdoor thing with the locomotive and the Model A's or Model T's, and all the actors that are in all the houses and all the stuff. And I don't know if you call them actors, but they're tour guides per se. So it's just really neat. So I recommend everyone go. My favorite part, there was a few international things in there, but the village part had like a working machine shop that was all belt driven and old time. And so if anybody's followed me for any length of time, I love that old belt driven machinery. So that was kind of neat. There's the old farm was interesting to see, a horse, plowing with a horse and all that, which is, interesting. They still do it the way they did 100 years ago, just for, of course, demonstration purposes. But it's big. They have a big field that they work. So, I mean, these guys, these actors or whatever you want to call them, they're working. Like, it's not just they're not just sitting there going, "Oh, ye old prospector coming in." Like, no, these guys are plowing a field with a horse. Like, they're doing real work. So, I thought that was kind of neat. But yeah, just a lot of interesting stuff. Like, I thought it was pretty neat, and I think a lot of you folks would like it too. So if you're ever planning a trip anywhere up there, because I think it was 2 hours, 2.5 hours from Fort Wayne to Dearborn, so not crazy far. We went during the week, and it was still technically summertime, so there were no kids really. I mean, there were kids, there were plenty of kids, but it wasn't very crowded. It wasn't like a weekend during the school year, or something like that, where it'd be lots of buses and teachers and kids and things like that. No, it was all pretty viewable. There were a few a-hole tourists that had no awareness. Like, that's what drives me nuts about crowds and people and going to places like that, is that no matter what, there's always people that just are oblivious to the rest of the population, and they just wander into whatever you're doing, or you're trying to take a picture, or you're reading. Like, I'm trying to read a plaque, and it's, of course, the plaque, you can't touch it. It's on the other side of a roped area, so I'm like standing there trying to read it, and like this lady just pushes me out of the way so that she can read it. And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I'm done reading that." And she of course didn't acknowledge that I existed. But still, just stuff like that, it irritates the shit out of me. So that's why I don't do this stuff a lot, because my tolerance for that kind of BS is just it's real low. But yeah, I mean, that was really interesting. We hit a couple of antique stores. I did buy some international stuff, some knick-knacky things, some buttons, some badges. I got a IH notebook. I'm guessing a manager or something carried around in his pocket. So I thought that was kind of neat. A few little doodads, not a ton. I was gonna say, our hotel at Fort Wayne, I don't know. Josie just booked it, like, whatever. We didn't choose it. She just called and said, "Hey, there's two of us and a dog. We're staying here. We're part of this show." And they're like, "Okay, we'll put you in this room." And she's like, "Great," and booked it. And then we get there, and it's like this massive suite with a couch and a bar and a dining table, and like, it's a 2.5 room thing. Like, it was the fanciest hotel I'd ever stayed in, or fanciest setup anyways. And so I thought that was kind of funny, because usually we just sleep in the truck or Motel 6 or some econo lodge, cheap whatever, just a place to sleep, because some places have an expensive pet fee, or or when we're traveling, we just get tired and pull into the first town and get a room. So I thought it was interesting that stayed in some place nice for once. But yeah, it was good. What else? I'm trying to think if there's anything I overlooked. No, just after the museum, just started beating feet home, making good time through Iowa and Nebraska and all that, back through Wyoming, and had a bad headwind in Wyoming, like always, and Utah was fine. Like, it was a decent drive. Made good time coming home. Took a couple days, and generally generally a good time. Come back and, immediately thrown into the fire as far as work and phone calls and emails and irritated customers that, we're not giving them our utmost attention all the time and that kind of stuff. So, you deal with that and then, try to get work done. So, yeah, it's just a typical trip. And then when I got back, I immediately started hauling rigs and moving stuff and getting things, every time we go on one of these trips, we always come up with a plan, a game plan, or business. I don't know what you call it. Just some sort of business model that we're going to change this and we're going to do that and we're going to adjust this, and so we end up, implementing that stuff when we get home, and it's actually been working really good, and so we'll continue on that, but. Look for some new merch from us pretty soon, some t-shirt designs and things like that. You've already seen our tags if you follow along with social media at all. Our fancy tags are out and everybody loves those. We've got some more decals coming out soon that I think people are going to enjoy. So yeah, you'll see those shortly. But yeah, just generally, everything was good. Trip was good. Everything was nice. So, it's nice to be able to say that finally. But I started working on the 56, or continued working on the 56 winter beater project. That'll be fun. I've done some YouTube uploads on that. So if you haven't been to YouTube lately, hit the channel and check that out. The 56 rear axle and some spring work, and about ready to do another rear axle rebuild one that's got some pretty neat little things in there. So anyway, I'm gonna cut this guy short because it's evening. I gotta get home for dinner. Yeah, won't do one of these tomorrow because I will be cutting firewood, but I may try to burn out a midweek one. So we'll see what happens. But anyways, thank you everybody for following along. I appreciate all of the support, telling your friends, the Patreon supporters, which are dwindling, but the few you guys that are still hanging on, I really appreciate your $2 a month. It all helps. So anyways, until next time, I am Dan for Binder Boneyard.